it's a literal dumpster fire. You're using hotel Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I
It's gotten
I
to
didn't
that
realize
point.
how much of a here. Hold on, let me try something.
All right, you should try calling on your phone. All right. But yeah, fun how that worked out. How else? Like, there's like 6 guys doing what I did. So no, I'm glad that I'm glad I found a niche.
Yeah, in the
Yep.
same respect, I mean, everyone's copying the DLF model, and they're just too far behind at this point to really catch up, you know?
Well, yeah, and I have like 5,000 followers. It's fucking insane.
It's awesome.
It's literally nuts. So, and I don't have any actual football insight other than I just retweet what people say. How easy is that?
Dude, you found the glitch in the matrix, man.
Well, what,
Truly.
what's funny is before Eric came on, Dickens was basically doing exactly what Eric was, but there wasn't as many dynasty trades because no one that knew what the hell what dynasty was. I guess.
No one organized it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just kind of like you told your buddies, "Oh, I destroyed this guy," or "What do you think of this?" And then it was
Yeah, and then Dickens did send it. Dickens started the whole thing, at least I think. So he gets props there. Then I took it and ran with it. And
yeah.
then he brought me on the right for DLF, which was impressive. Like after I went on the DLF pod for not even dynasty trades. That was for that was when I had like 600 followers to talk the similarities of poker and dynasty football.
Yeah, that was when we had you on the dudes right around. I mean,
Yeah,
no, it
for
was
sure.
after it was after you blew up.
No, that was right around the same time.
Really?
Yeah. No, we came in before he blew up for sure.
Yep, I was still just a young man at that time, having fun with the dudes, watching you guys shove your face full of celery.
No, that was fruit.
Oh,
That was fruit.
Well,
which
okay.
episode? What did we
It
do?
was the fruit one where you guys were just pummeling pomegranates the whole time.
Oh yeah. Oh my god.
Bet you, bet you
All
guys
right,
don't
so
miss doing that. Oh wow, what
you
happened?
definitely miss it. What? Is it
Your
better?
voice just got
I put in the headphone.
Oh, good Christ, man. Yeah, that got like a billion times better. Literally
Good
a
thing I
billion
thought of
times
that.
better.
Good thing I thought of that before. I had a headphone in my ear, but it was plugged into my computer, not my phone. So.
Oh my god.
Okay, so you're on your phone, Nathan?
Currently, yes.
Okay, no, that sounds way, way better. So
Yeah,
if
it
this is
does.
if this is the case, then my God, man, we'll roll with it. So as a heads up, I started recording a little bit ago, broadcasting a little bit ago.
Oh shit.
So we always do this because then it brings in hilarious outtakes at some point. Like something really funny happens beforehand while we're outlining the show that like somebody says something funny or makes fun of Nathan.
Well, that usually happens. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So what we're gonna do, the format of the show today is gonna be slightly different. I don't have a whole lot to say about Philip Dorsett, so hopefully you guys have hot takes because I've got a decent bit to say about Hilton and Moncrief. I'm kind of the opposite of the current dynasty Twitter, where like I really like Hilton and really am not a huge fan of Moncrief. So I'm sure that's at least unpopular
Oh,
right
okay. All right.
now. So I'll be arguing that side of things. So if you guys love Moncrief and hate Ty, then there you go.
Wait, but before we dispense and start officially, so who are we taking for each of these courtroom things?
Oh yeah, so I went in and filled in my name for prosecution on the top one. I will.
Prosecution means that you're defending that side.
Yeah, well, that side was the one who won the Twitter. So yeah, and for us, just so you know, prosecution is the one who won the Twitter trade, and then defense is the one who lost. They're arguing why they deserve to have won, basically.
Okay.
And you can use any.
Listeners League Dynasty Courtroom.
Yeah,
So
don't
we're
worry about.
skipping that.
Don't worry. No, don't worry about the listener league. I'll say that stuff or Nathan
Okay.
will. And so that'll be us. Oh, that's yellow. That's not
Well,
highlighted.
yeah, no, we'll just talk about that. Yeah.
Let's see. How do I highlight this motherfucker? Hmm.
All right. So where are the
All our
Dynasty
keyboard.
trades?
So then on the second page at the top of it, you see Dynasty Courtroom, and then you see. I put that. That's no good.
Oh, yes.
So there's 3 there. So there is. I wrote the prosecution, and there's like who written next to basically who in each one of the other lines. So like I'll put them in red real quick just so they pop.
All right, so yeah, so I take all the hard ones. So you have to take 2 each, right?
Yeah,
So,
two. Well, yeah, take
I took.
take one prosecution. So then Russ, you don't necessarily have to believe in it, but
Gotcha.
you'll have to put on your devil's advocate hat.
Oh boy.
I will. Who wants to argue the Lamar or Watkins side of that deal? And also
Okay.
that deal was like 52-48. I don't understand how that was so close.
Wait, so hold on. I can do Watkins, Lamar, and David Johnson. Russell can do Demarius, and then the Landry and the picks. Oh wait, no, he's doing no. You're doing the
Yes,
Landry and the picks?
I'd like to argue for Corey Coleman. Thank you.
Yeah, I can take.
So then you have to give Eric. You have to give him the Mari 102.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
No,
unless
that's
you want to
fine.
do that one.
No,
I don't care.
that sounds like a very hot take. So I will allow you to have that hot take. Russell prosecution, and then I will. I don't even know that I want to argue that. I'll argue against Nathan. I'll let you guys dynasty dudes it. I'll take my homeboy Demarius,
Okay, that works.
and then Nathan.
And then Russell versus Eric will be the Landry pick. That makes sense.
Yeah, and I will absolutely argue for this side because I actually believe in this side being significantly more valuable.
Ooh.
And it's basically what's Landry worth? 2 firsts right now, so that's basically 4 firsts for Nuck.
I've never seen Landry go for that price tag, but
What do you think he goes for? I guess he's like the one.
like a first and a half.
Yeah, I guess you're right. 102, I guess, is where he is. Everybody's in that like between 101 and 102 void.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
All right.
All right. Okay,
Cool.
cool.
Colts receivers.
All right, let's do this.
Oh boy.
Russ, what's your dynasty handle or what's your fantasy handle? I don't remember. Off the top of my head.
Russell J. Clay.
I mean, I don't know why they need to follow you because you don't tweet football anymore. But
I
that's fine.
tweet. Check out today's MLB cheat sheet.
God.
Ugh.
I hope you're making a pile of money. All right,
Well.
that sounds like you're making a pile of money.
What, like in change or like actually?
Yeah, if you're counting it in nickels, that's not possible.
It's a pretty solid pile of nickels.
Yeah, I have 45 nickels. It's going great. All right, let's do this. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Dynasty Tradecast. I'm your host, Eric Bertzloff, also known as Dynasty Trades on Twitter. I'm joined today by Nathan Powell. That's NPowellFF on Twitter. Nathan, how's it going, man?
I'm back.
Yeah, full disclosure, Nathan's on a phone in a hotel room with his parents upstairs. So think of him like when people joke about like Nathan being in his parents' basement, he pretty much is in this particular scenario. So if he has some terrible internet connections, it's because he's using the Hilton Wi-Fi and talking on his phone. So apologies on that quality ahead of time because I'm assuming it's not going to be up to snuff. And then third, we don't actually have Dan on the show today. He had to be a late scratch. Due to some illness issues. So we brought in Russell Clay to fill out the Dynasty Dudes. Russell Clay you can follow him on Twitter at Russell J. Clay. I was on their show, Dynasty Dudes. Man, it must have been close to like a year and a half ago. How's it going, dude?
Good, awesome. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, we had Eric on our Dynasty Dudes podcast, a year ago, somewhere around there, when the Dynasty Tradesman was just growing into a beautiful butterfly.
Yeah, back when I had like 800 followers, they actually found me after the DLF pod, and they're like, man, we should give this guy another shot at a podcast because he did so bad.
I don't know. I think we might have gotten you before the DLF podcast. Maybe they copied us. There's a chance. Who knows?
I'll have to go check the dates. As I recall, I mean, clearly it was so memorable. I remember the order, so that's great. I just remember you guys shoving your face with fruit. So
that was a common theme: stuffing our faces with things and such.
It sounds healthy. It's like that guy who did the food challenges over and over again, and like he finally just quit. Like each season, he looked like more unhealthy than the last season. Like he was just like outright sweating on the camera, like he wasn't doing the challenge.
Oh yeah, I outright sweat. I don't know why though. It might not be because of the food.
On the 2019 edition of the Dynasty Dudes, Russell and Nathan weigh 800 pounds.
Basically. Well, at least you did a healthy version. That's different. I mean, it wasn't like we're doing cheeseburger edition or whatever it is. So, yeah. So we're gonna have Russ on. We're gonna chat through some Colts receivers. We're just gonna focus on that. I feel like there's a lot of discussion to be had among the three primary receivers on the Colts and discussion of just the Colts in general that I think there's a lot of dynasty relevance on that team that I think are worthy of discussing, and there's a lot of hate on T.Y. Hilton, a lot of love for Dante Moncrief, and a lot of question marks with Philip Dorsett, just generally speaking, from Dynasty Twitter. So we'll talk about that, and then afterwards we're going to hop into a fun game of Dynasty Courtroom. If you remember that one, me and Dan kind of used Southern voices on one of them that ended up being completely ridiculous. So Russell, you have your the bar set for doing funny accents, all right?
Oh, I was dying at Dan's accent, and then I was like, all right, I got to get prepping for something here. I do not think I can pull anything like that.
We'll see. We'll see if you can hold snuff here. Yeah, if you can keep it up. So with that being said, let's kick right into our discussion of the Indy wide receivers. So the first player that we're going to discuss is T.Y. Hilton. He's been a pretty consistent player as far as his stats go. I know he's got kind of a reputation for inconsistency, at least from discussions I've had. That's probably the biggest knock I usually hear against him is like, well, do you feel comfortable starting him? He could boom or bust. Or it seems to be the argument I hear all the time. So basically his stats is everything but his rookie year, he's cleared 1,000 yards. He's been between right around 70, 80 receptions each year. If you remember, what in the world was that?
Oh, hold on. That was someone toasting an Untapped I did.
Nathan's jump farting over there.
What in the world? Toasting?
Hold on, 1 second.
I don't even think I want to take this out. I think I just want to leave it in.
Hold on.
Derail the T.Y. Hilton. Good Lord, Nathan. Throw it on the carpet.
Blame it on DLF writer Zach Bonner. He's toasting all my Untapped.
So, do those sounds define how you feel about T.Y. Hilton? Or is this like subliminal you're trying to pull on us right now to change our views? Or what is this?
Yeah, I thought he did buy a prop.
That is a great transition by you, Russell. No, I do not have any disdain towards T.Y. Hilton as a dynasty asset. The one thing I wanted to talk about with Hilton is that he's an interesting case because he's not really a guy who gets traded a lot. You know, there's the type of guys that, you know, the extremely young guys that get traded a lot. There's the extremely old guys that get traded a lot. Hilton's kind of stuck in this zone where, like, his value isn't going to change, like, ever. He's going to be Andrew Luck's number one forever, and everyone knows it. So no one's trading him. No one's really trading for him. So he's kind of just stuck in a place. So we're arguing about about the dynasty value of a guy who, honestly, I don't see move very often. Do you guys see him moved? Am I just missing something?
I mean, I've certainly seen hatred for Ty. There's people who believe he's worth the 101, and there's people that believe he's not worth the 105. One thing you're saying is where he's the go-to dynasty wide receiver one for Andrew Luck. I'm not sure that's true. I actually ran a poll. Carl Safchek, we and him were having a conversation about this, but he was like, well, I was like, there's a lot of, I put a post out saying I value T.Y. Hilton more than Moncrief. I don't care was what I said. Might have had a couple drinks at the airport. I don't know. But I put that out, and Carl was like, well, that's an obvious take. And I was like, no, not anymore. It seems like everybody's taking Moncrief, or there's a strong consensus that Moncrief is the better wide receiver in that offense, and ran a poll between the two of them and actually came out to something like right around 40-60, 42-58. So there's a growing number of people that think that Moncrief has overtaken Hilton as the wide receiver one. I guess Russ, first off, that's nuts to me. Russ, do you agree?
I am not on that train. I would say Hilton's actually been a very interesting sort of asset this summer, because when you're doing startups, he's always in that range where there's kind of a drop-off in the mid to late second of startups, and you're like, who am I going to take here? It's usually between, I don't know what it's shifted to now, but when I did mine, it was like Brandon Cooks, Demarius, Parker, and Hilton. And Hilton was kind of sitting there lagging a little behind there, and initially I was all in on Cooks this summer, and I was like, I'm getting Cooks in that spot every time. But as I kind of go along, you kind of think about Hilton's floor, at least for the next year or two. he's just got such a high floor. And again, the week-to-week stuff, yeah, he's a little inconsistent. But if you throw him in every week, which you're going to be doing with an Andrew Luck offense, I just think it's going to average out, and he's going to get that 1,200 yards. So
I'm not sure that I believe that that's the consensus, though. Nathan, do you feel the same? Am I nuts? I think I feel like everybody I talk to, their argument is inconsistency, is boom or bust potential. And if you go through his stats,
yeah.
I mean, I actually pulled this up prior. In 2014, he had 11 double-digit scoring games and 3 games that exceeded 20 points, and he had 14 games above 9 points. That's a starter if I've ever seen one. In 2015, without Andrew Luck for 9 games, 10 double digits, 2 over 20, and he only had 6 games that were sub 10. So it ended up finishing as the wide receiver 24. To me, that is a very consistent starter. So maybe I'm making an argument against the wall here, and nobody believes that's because that, like I said, that's the knock I keep hearing is inconsistency, and to me, I've never seen that.
It was like back in the day with Deshaun Jackson. Everyone used to say he was literally a boom bust, and to an extent he was, but he was pretty much sort of in his prime years in Philly. He was over 10 points pretty much every game. It wasn't as inconsistent as people made it out to be. And I sort of look at Hilton like a higher-end Deshaun Jackson in that sense because he's just in such a better offense. So in terms of that, I'm not selling whatsoever. I still think he's going to be the number one for years to come. I'm not really worried about Moncrief taking his job because what's 130 targets in that offense? You know, like those are still high upside targets in that offense. So I'm not selling him in any respect. He's a hold for me because I don't think you can get necessarily what you want. So, I mean, I'd look at him a tier below Cooks right now. Honestly,
I think that's fair. He's a buy for me, and hold on one sec. Nathan, are you here?
I'm here.
Okay, good. I just saw that your face had gone. But yeah, he's totally a buy for me, and I've actually been looking around for him in leagues and throwing out offers for him. Unfortunately, I realized I kind of own him everywhere, so he's certainly been a guy that I've been targeting. He has a massive ceiling, too. So aside from having that decent floor of 10 points pretty consistently, he's also got a massive ceiling where he can bust 30 out in any given week.
Right.
Yeah, if there was ever a buy low window with Hilton, it was that window between the day Philip Dorsett was drafted and then when he signed his 6-year, $66 million contract in August of 2015. Because between those 2-3 months, people were saying, oh, Dorsett's coming in so they don't have to pay for Hilton next year. And then they end up signing him a 6-year, $66 million deal.
Like
so
almost immediately, too.
Yeah, so the window kind of slammed shut there. Everyone knows now that he's connected to Andrew Luck long term. So I mean, I like Hilton a lot, obviously, and what he did last year with the rotation of Hilton. I mean, not with Hilton, but with the rotation of Luck and Freeman and Hasselbeck. He had 1,124 yards and 5 touchdowns with those quarterbacks and a hurt Andrew Luck. It's like anyone who's doubting his talent after last year is just fooling themselves, and he's definitely in that conversation for that 2-3 turn area in startup drafts.
He's definitely a guy that I think too, because I think another buy window has opened. I don't think it's necessarily the same as the Philip Dorsett one prior to them getting a deal done. But I do think there's a buy window open right now, is because I don't think people remember that Andrew Luck was injured last year, and people are just like, well, he wasn't that good last year, and I really like this sexy Devontae Parker, for example, is a great example of a player going way ahead of him that really hasn't done anything. He's flashed a little bit, and is it tantalizing? Of course, but T.Y. Hilton has proven to be a wide receiver one before.
And he sort of falls into that range where he's never going to be the top 5 to 7 guy, especially in sort of the new wave of just dominant wide receivers. But again, I think he can be a guy that's a top 10 to 12 receiver for the next 3 to 5 years. So
you don't think that there's a chance that he could make a turn in his NFL career, like say an Antonio Brown or something, and like suddenly just use his tools so incredibly that nobody can cover him any longer?
Do I think that's in his range of outcomes? Maybe at the very highest ceiling. But
You're saying no.
No, probably not. I don't think.
Yeah, no, especially with the other weapons that we'll talk about shortly around him. It's really tough for him to be a guy that's going to be getting like 160 targets. I don't really see that as a thing that can happen with Hilton.
Okay, well, let's move on. I think we've said pretty much everything we can say about Hilton, and we touched on a little bit of each of the other wide receivers. So the dynasty darling this offseason seems to be Dante Moncrief to me. He's a player who basically went from late-ish first range at the end of his rookie year to now probably going 102 overall. So he's a player that people I think are outright preferring over Treadwell, or at least it's close. He's creeping into that third round of startup drafts, which is way too rich for my blood just right off the bat. It's Dante Moncrief, and Moncrief was drafted in 2014 in the third round. He's shown sparks, especially at the beginning of last year. I think for the first 4 games, he had double-digit games, and then he kind of fizzled out. So I guess I'll kick over to Nathan before I give my real views on what are your thoughts on Moncrief and his current price of literally to me a 102, and that crazy price tag.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to be agreeing a lot with these trio of receivers. Maybe not with Dorsett, but with Moncrief, I feel like he's just priced at his ceiling. The third round guy, you usually want a guy you're taking in the third round to either be a Hilton type who's proven is going to be, consistent over the next 4 to 5 years, or you want a guy who has a 101 type ceiling and an A-Rob type breakout season. And that's not really in the range of outcomes for Dante Moncrief, in my opinion. So that's why I worry about his, third round price tag in Dynasty, and his, fourth or fifth round price tag in redraft just seems ludicrous to me, because if he breaks out, he's going to break out as like a high-end wide receiver 2, not as, the wide receiver 1 overall. And that's what I'm kind of looking for when you're making this type of an investment in a less than proven type asset.
Yeah, and to touch on his stats real quick. I mean, he last season, and again I pulled up some stats because I feel like he gets at least the reputation for being the consistent one in this particular group. And going back and looking at his stats after the first 4 games last year, which is where he kind of boomed and grabbed everybody's attention and his value started just catapulting. He only had 4 double-digit games after that, and he had 5 points with under 5 points, or 5 games rather with under 5 points. So he's certainly not the pinnacle consistency. When I went and looked at those stats, I was thrilled to see that I wasn't like mentally tricking myself into thinking he was like a super consistent, like seeing all these targets and getting like 9 target games. He's just not getting that.
I will jump in here. I think in terms of what you're looking at in that Colts offense, I actually think they can both be really successful. I do think he can get over 1,000 yards this year, but again, if you're buying him in the third round of a startup like you're talking about, you're expecting, 1,300 yards basically. So that's tough. I do not think he solely overtakes Hilton as the one there. I don't think that's that type of situation it is. Again, if you're not buying Hilton because you don't think he can be a number 1 there, I don't think you should be buying Moncrief either. So it's kind of like at best they both see 120 to 130 targets, for Moncrief. I don't see him out targeting him. So in that respect, yes, I could see 1,000 to 1,100 yards, but not third round dynasty ADP or 1-2. I'd rather take a chance with the 3 rookie receivers there.
So let's talk dynasty value real quick on Moncrief, because I think, I guess, does anybody refute the fact that he's probably worth like the 102 and maybe some change in current value of where he's at on Twitter?
In that range, I don't know about 1-2 outright though.
You don't think so? Okay, so like 1-3. I mean,
yeah, I mean in that range.
I feel like in startup ADP, which I don't have in front of me, as far as what he's going 25th overall in startup ADP in June. That's completely ludicrous. Like that is that is nuts. That is basically in the second round. So he's creeping up on TY. He's only 4 picks behind TY in current ADP dynasty. That is literally ludicrous. And he is in my eyes, he's at his ceiling right now. If you own Dante Moncrief, you should be selling him, because this year he's never going to be able to live up to that. And then, as Nathan said, there's not this like pot of gold under the rainbow with him that like you're going to wake up and have yourself the next Calvin Johnson. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't see that at all. So I don't know. That's a weird range for him to be in for sure.
So if you can get where would you not sell Moncrief? I'll ask both of you guys. So for the 102, would you sell Moncrief?
Yes.
Yes, I would. I think that we talk about so many times, the 102 to 104 range, pretty much all 3 of those picks have like the same value. I'd sell 105 in an instant for Moncrief. and it would just be how I feel that day, picking between him, Doxson, Treadwell, and Coleman. But most likely Treadwell and Coleman definitely ahead of him.
Okay, so your line is so 10. So let's just do that. So Russ, you agree with that? 10. I mean, and I agree with that too. 102 through 105 are essentially the same price. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that.
Aside from your Corey Coleman take.
But yeah, no, definitely not over Corey Coleman. But I don't know, and this obviously doesn't have to do with dynasty value. This is just my personal evaluation. But I see him more in the Jordan Matthews range, where that's sort of how I evaluate him in terms of going forward. But obviously, I'm much lower than everyone else.
Yeah, it would seem. So we've found 3 people that would sell. I'm sure Dan would be in here, like, just fighting us back. And this is making for a very boring podcast, as we all seem to be very sensible individuals.
Well, to bring it back to unsensible individuals, our good friend Ty Miller, who was on the podcast last week, earlier this offseason, after saying how great Moncrief was the entire offseason, he decides to trade Moncrief for Mark Ingram in a second-round pick. So we definitely busted his balls in that league because he was saying how great Moncrief is.
He built his own hype, Nathan. He built his own hype. That is the power of having a podcast. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, that's kind of nuts because I feel like Mark Ingram's one of those players that mid-season everybody loved and then now is fading off because everybody remembers he's Mark Ingram. I personally like Mark Ingram, but that sounds like it might have a hotter take between all 3 of us, but it's not on the agenda, so we can't talk about it. I'm sorry, guys. I will mention, I think Nathan, or Dan, I think, actually put this itinerary together. I have on the itinerary that his player profile comp is Charles Johnson.
Yeah, brutal.
Vomit emoji.
Okay, now I don't think that's fair. That is not fair.
The vomit emoji?
Oh, vomit emoji fair.
Okay.
Comp not fair. But I mean, obviously, that's actually kind of a compliment in terms of athleticism. But yeah, overall, don't like seeing that.
No, and actually, that's a very good point because Charles Johnson is a very different football player. But if every football player had the athleticism that Charles Johnson did, then they would be in the head that they have themselves. This is going nowhere. All right, let's move on to Philip Dorsett. I don't know what I was going to go. I was like, if he has his head and then he has his Charles Johnson's heart, then, I mean, it would be a successful
and grit and determination.
Yeah, grit. Yeah, that's the word I want to use.
In a world with Danny Amendola grit.
Yeah, let's put together the perfect football player, and it's like who's got a
of just mediocre players.
Right, he's got Matt Asiata's heart.
Tough. I'd say toughness. Matt Asiata's toughness between the tackles.
All right, nobody. The Purple Sloth also not on the agenda. I don't know how we talked about a couple terrible Vikings in this, but
this is what happens when you have me on. We're gonna be talking about Paul Richardson in no time.
No.
I love Paul Richardson, Russ. Do you love Paul Richardson, Russ?
I do.
Oh, okay. No, I absolutely. I have a crush on him at his current price. All right, let's move on to a player that I would probably trade for Paul Richardson and then some change is Philip Dorsett. So Philip Dorsett was drafted as a first-round rookie pick that really brought to highlight how bad the Colts are at picking players. At least to me, this is a pick that in that draft just made literally zero sense to me, and I think the entire dynasty community freaked out and thought, hey, the Colts know what they're doing, and they picked this guy who's going to be a stud, and he's taking over T.Y.'s role, and kind of that buy low window that we talked about with T.Y. So I'll kick over to. I really don't have that many takes on Philip Dorsett. To me, he's kind of just a guy that I don't really want on my teams. If somebody wants to give him to me, that's fine. If somebody wants to give him to me, I'll take him. If somebody wants to give me value for him, I'll trade him. If he's got upside, I certainly can recognize that, but it's not somebody that I think is a strong chance of hitting. So for any real value, I'm going to pass on him. So what value do you have on him, Nathan?
I actually value Dorsett pretty high compared to the rest of people as of today. And as far as throwing shade towards the GMs of the Indianapolis Colts, I think that they get a lot of flack for their drafting, but I think they're better at player analysis than people think, and it's more of just team building. They just invest too much at one position. They had Hilton and Moncrief. They didn't really need Dorsett, but they had the of the mindset the more weapons we give Luck, the better. And so when he went at the late round of last year's draft, I ended up snagging him in a bunch of rookie drafts towards the end of the first round because, to be honest, there was 3, 4, 5 wide receivers going ahead of him in rookie drafts that went behind him in the NFL draft. So those are the type of moves that I'm always making. If a guy is going significantly lower in rookie drafts than he did in the NFL draft, I'm just taking advantage of that. And now, a year later, Dorsett's even cheaper than he was as a late first-round pick. Now you can probably get him for, a second-round pick in most leagues, but I have him everywhere, so I can't really do anything about that.
All right.
Yeah, no. But with Dorsett, I think that, the biggest thing that you can point to as, okay, this guy might be a thing, is that, he's a deep threat for Andrew Luck, and that team doesn't have any semblance of a running game. Frank Gore is 8,000 years old. If he rushes more than 20 times this year, I'll be surprised. So I'm going to see like a 700 pass season for Andrew Luck, and give plenty of targets for Dorsett. So I like Dorsett, and he'll be tough to start week to week, but especially in best ball leagues, I love him there because you won't have to predict when the 60-yard touchdown will be. But I'm sure he'll have a few of those this season.
Yeah, he's much more of a best ball guy to me, at least in year 2 for him. But you look at the range of ADP he's in, 110 overall. I mean, this is just a range where I like buying guys that I think you buy them in bulk instead of expecting one to hit. So I think Dorsett's in sort of that range of the draft where you look at a Tevin Coleman, a Jerick McKinnon, guys like that where they're highly athletic, have some decent sort of were drafted reasonably high. The teams have something invested in them, but they haven't necessarily hit yet. So I think if you take a look at that, I think it's actually pretty fairly valued. I value him higher, but I can understand why people wouldn't be low. In terms of him hitting, I don't see any way he sort of hits that first round wide receiver mold that they drafted him in. He's a third receiver there pretty much no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that. Actually, I even agree that his ADP is reasonable. I just think that his ADP, and I don't have it in front of me, but my guess would be there's probably people who drafted him a lot higher than that and people who drafted him a lot lower than that. So it seems like in your league, there's always a guy who has an affinity for this upside of Philip Dorsett. I know that there's, on Twitter, Dynasty Twitter, there's a ton of guys who, well, not a ton, but at least a couple that I can think of that have Philip Dorsett as a player that they like to have, that they like for going on in the future. But yeah, I mean, it's I don't see where he's going to carve out a workload in that offense. Now, again, at 110, you're targeting players that are one injury away from being very, very relevant and league winners. So in this particular case, I mean, targeting a player like Philip Dorsett or Tevin Coleman or Jerick McKinnon, these are 3 players that you could target right there, and that depending on who you like is, from a dynasty perspective, is like they're one injury away from being relevant this year and never giving the job back. So like Jerick McKinnon would probably be my pick out of the group, but I completely get it if you like Dorsett in that range. And to be fair, I guess his ADP is, I guess it basically goes to what I'm saying is I don't really have a hot take on him. I'm kind of meh on Philip Dorsett. I think his ADP is about right, and if you love him, then come get him. If you don't, then I'm going to hold on to him. And I have him in a couple leagues, but I haven't gotten the right deal for him.
And, go ahead.
Eric, would you trade a random 17-second for
him? Yeah, probably. It's kind of the same hit rate for me in that place, probably. I would probably want it to project later. But yeah, second, and I would try to get change out of it. That's probably the value I actually put on him, and I would go. I generally don't try to trade for exactly the value that they're worth. If that's the case, I usually just hold on to the asset unless I believe they're not, unless I am particularly low on them, I guess. So I probably want a little bit on top. So if you gave me a mid next year second and an early third or something like that, yeah, I'd do that deal.
And just to go back to Dorsett's college profile for a second, he profiles as what Matt Kelly likes to call the stretch X, and he wasn't like a super productive college player. He was super efficient per catch. He averaged like over 25 yards per reception, but it wasn't like he was ever the dominant college receiver. So I think when sort of projecting for him, how high can he go as a pro, I guess that's my only holdup with him. I think he's a perfect fit in that offense as sort of the stretch guy, but I don't ever see him being like 12 or 1,300 yards in a season or anything like that.
Yeah, they need to bulk up that O-line so he can at least get to the end of his route before Luck's seeing the dirt.
Right.
All right, cool. Well, I think that wraps up our discussion of the Colts receivers. I think that we were all, I think, generally on the same page, other than Nathan having a love affair for Philip Dorsett. So let's go ahead and pivot over to talking about the Listener League. We are waiting on one name, and I feel like you sent us your info. So if you're Pantera hates iTunes, please send your info. If we haven't heard from you, man, in like a week or so, we're just going to replace you with the next person who left a review. So please go ahead and reach out. Like I said, I wouldn't be shocked if you've reached out before, but Dan's in charge of this, and quite frankly, he's just very, very unorganized. So it should be a ton of fun. It's going to be. We'll kind of go into the details of it as we get closer to it. So I'm not going to bore everybody with talking about the particulars of this particular league, but it is an ADP draft, which is going to be really fun. Which is, Russell, I don't know if you've heard this, but there is no draft. We are just going to go off July ADP, and that is going to be how your team is selected via a snake draft order. So if you have the 112 and the 201, then you're getting the 12th and 13th player in ADP, and so on and so on.
I also see a little note in here saying absolutely no tanking. If you tank, you will be maimed via Twitter.
Yeah.
So that's also an exciting development that I hope someone tanks in.
It's a best ball league, so I don't know how you can tank.
It'd be impressive, actually. I mean,
Yeah,
I guess
that's
you
what
could be
I'm
really
saying.
bad at trading, but
I'm in on the maiming potential. So
yeah, no, that's great. He's as soon as you can go biblical on somebody, you're in, Russ, huh? All right. So as I teased in the intro, we are going to do Dynasty Courtroom. So this is the Dynasty Courtroom, and that's where I play drop. And then now I can come in. I'm gonna grab my scissors here for my effect. Everybody got a gavel as a judge. Everybody good?
We're good.
We're ready to roll. Okay, great.
Russell, you're the judge on the second one.
okay.
Yeah. Okay. So hold on. Let's.
Oh wait, no. Yeah, you are. Okay.
Yeah, Russ is judge.
Who's the person that types out the transcripts? Can I be that person?
Yeah. You can be. Yes, exactly. You can do that. Eric is judge. All right. Let's see. And then on this one, Nathan is judge. All right, Nathan, do you want to throw, or Russ, feel free to introduce the honorable Dynasty Trades, or Eric Bertzloff, however you want to do in this segment, and I'll introduce the plaintiff and the defendant.
Well, hello there, everyone. Hello to Eric, beautiful judge, Eric Bertzloff, Dynasty Trades. There's going to be barbecue in the room after, and now presiding, Dynasty Trades.
All right, now I don't know why I need to be talked about all that way, and why the barbecue needed to be brought up right now, but it's gonna be finger looking good. It's gonna be good. All right, so I'm here to hear over your case. The plaintiff is Amari Cooper in the 102 for the defendant. Lamar Miller and Sammy Watkins. Nathan will be defending, Mr. Nathan Powell will be defending Watkins and Lamar, and Mr. Russell Clay will be prosecuting for Amari and the 102. I will default to the prosecution now.
Well, Nathan, when you really look at the evaluation of Amari Cooper and Watkins, they are pretty even, if you ask me. And so when you take that out, you have Lamar Miller in the 1-2. Now
Wait a minute. Did he just change his accent in the middle of this?
Now,
I prefer the second accent, to be honest.
When you look at the 1-2, you look at three real options there as the 1-2 rookie pick. We're looking at Corey Coleman, we're looking at Laquan Treadwell, and we're looking at Josh Doxson. Now, if I were a betting man, boy, I tell you what, I'm going to be taking Corey Coleman in there because he got 20 touchdowns, 8 games. I tell you what, he did in the 2015 season, so I'm going to be going with the 1-2 over Lamar Miller.
All right, I guess Russell's wrapped up now. Nathan, what say you to the man who sounded like an internet predator there in the middle of that?
Well, I do agree with the prosecution that Amari Cooper and Sammy Watkins, the difference is negligible. But one thing to point out is that Amari Cooper, while he had an amazing rookie season, he also led the league in drops, so that's not a great thing. Sammy Watkins has not had such issues with drops, so that's why you might have a slight edge to the Watkins there. But if we're going to break it down to Corey Coleman and company versus Lamar Miller, people have hated the 2016 draft since about 2009. They've hated it that long. So I'm just going to assume every player but Zeke in this class is a bust. And Lamar Miller is a running back who has proven to be an RB1. He's going to get even more carries in 2016 with Houston. So I'm going to take the proven running back, who is a top 5 dynasty running back, over the Corey Coleman or Laquan Treadwell at 102, because running backs produce right away. These wide receivers might take a couple years. So we'll go with, Watkins and Lamar Miller over Amari Cooper in the 102.
All right, I'm ready to rule. I really don't buy into the idea that Sammy Watkins and Amari Cooper are equal. If you look at their dynasty value, Amari Cooper is excessively more valuable. Now, I also don't buy into Nathan's argument that just because this isn't a highly touted rookie class, that the 102 is busting out of the league next year. That's ridiculous. So that argument is ludicrous. Now, to say it's a bad class so nobody but Zeke is going to be good, I refuse to buy into that. So I'm going to go ahead and side with Mr. Russell Clay and Mr. Amari Cooper, who was on Celebrity Family Feud last night. That was terrific. And then the 102. So well played, Russell Clay. Well played.
Barbecue for everyone.
Barbecue for everyone. What type of barbecue are we having? I'm curious where in the South we are.
Well, we're looking at some Carolina ribs, looking at some sweet honey ribs.
That's not even close to a Carolina accent. Come on now.
Oh, I don't know. As I went down towards the south, the signs got bigger and louder, and there were more capitalized words. So
Russ is back. Russ, hey, how's it going, dude? There was this guy here.
Oh.
There was a super scary internet guy, and then there was a guy from the South claiming to be from Carolina, and it wasn't him. Oh, it's all a bad dream, man.
At some points, I see my accents sort of going down the tubes, so I just switch to something else.
All right. Let me introduce now.
Go ahead.
Now entering the courtroom. All right, you screwed it up, Eric.
Hey, your fart screwed it up that time.
That's Brian Malone.
I saved you is what I did.
All right, one sec. Let me turn that damn notification off.
Why don't you just put the phone in carpet? You're in a hotel. It's definitely carpeted. Throw it on the ground.
Blah, 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 blah. Where's the Twitter?
And then look at internet porn on it.
That's what I like to do. That's going to be the opening. All right, here we go. Now entering the courtroom from Massachusetts, Judge Russell Clay.
Hello, everyone. I hope we can be respectful and honest in this courtroom today. Today's case will be between Eric on the defense and Nathan on the prosecution. The defense will be defending Demaryius Thomas and Jonathan Stewart. And our prosecution, Nathan, will be defending and prosecuting with David Johnson. So, let's get into it.
All right. The reason why David Johnson is the superior asset in this trade is he is the ascending asset in this trade, and the other two, Demaryius Thomas and Jonathan Stewart, they are descending assets. So if I'm looking at 2 different second-round picks in startup drafts and guys who are valued that way in trades, I'm going to go for the second-round startup pick that's ascending in a better offense and a running back who's can provide more points immediately. And he's only 25. Yes, he's an older second-year back, but he's 25. He's going to be a very good top 5 running back in the near future until the great 2017 class ruins everything. So I like David Johnson in this trade simply because Jonathan Stewart doesn't matter. And so if I'm looking at it straight head-to-head, David Johnson versus Demaryius, I'm going to take the ascending asset in Johnson and send the descending asset in Thomas with the quarterbacks of Paxton Lynch and Mark Sanchez. I just want to mess with it, so give me Johnson.
Well, I'll go ahead and tell you. Wow, that really hurts to do. I'm just gonna do my real voice. I was gonna do like smoker voice. That doesn't
Order
work.
in the court! Order in the court!
Order in the court. So first, I noticed that Nathan is teleconferencing in. So if you caught all of his argument there, then congratulations to you. But my argument is first, Demaryius Thomas is just outright has a higher ADP than David Johnson. So to me, that's not even close. Demaryius Thomas is a complete buy right now with his crazy hatred on Twitter. And then Jonathan Stewart has also been sort of hated on. He's been productive every season he stayed healthy, which has been one. And last season, when he was able to stay healthy, he was very productive. I believe a high-end running back too. So he's the type of player that you can stash on the end of your roster, especially for a win now team. This Demaryius side is incredible. But if I'm on that David Johnson side, first off, the David Johnson side won on Twitter, which is completely ludicrous. So to me, the defense is easy. Demaryius Thomas is the better asset over David Johnson. Jonathan Stewart is an underrated asset. This is a trade I would have made in a heartbeat for Thomas and Stewart. I think it's a complete no-brainer.
Order in the court! Okay.
All right, what is it?
Now, I'd like to have a word with the prosecution, real quick. Nathan, can you look me in the eyes, please, sir?
Over the internet.
Why are you on a computer right now, sir? You are not in the courtroom. Because of that, there is a mistrial, and we will meet again next month.
Now that is ridiculous. We'll meet again next month. You're a guest. That's not how this works, Russ. That's not how this works. You're ruining the game, Russ.
Okay. I approve of that ruling.
Right. Do you want me to do it over?
No, I don't. It's perfect.
Oh, okay.
All right, we'll end it with that, and then move over to Nathan being the judge. I can introduce the Honorable Nathan Powell. But yeah, no, that's fine. I was just razzing you, Russ. Don't.
Oh, okay. I was like, I broke stride.
No, you're good.
No, that was amazing.
That was perfect.
Wait, hold on. Could you not hear me during my David?
Yeah, you've been kind of you'll hear it at the end, but you're kind of bad internet all over the place here.
It was a little. You heard the rest of the argument. It was just the first part, so yeah.
We can edit that part out.
We'll see. I'm just going to leave it in because I gave him a warning at the beginning, so it'll be fun.
I think we have to keep it in, otherwise the computer thing wouldn't make sense.
It's true. Yeah, it's got to roll with it.
All right, that's cool.
Now presiding, the Honorable Nathan Powell, with his parents upstairs in the hotel room, wherever he is currently teleconferencing in. I give you the Honorable Nathan Powell.
From Chicago, I am here to make this very important ruling today. I was going to go to the Cubs game today, but I knew I had to make this ruling. So today, the prosecution is Nook DeAndre Hopkins, wide receiver for the Houston Texans.
Your Honor, it's pronounced Nuke. We've had a very big conversation about this on Twitter.
It's Nook. It's Nook. In my courtroom, it is Nook.
I love how you bang the gavel.
I would like my prosecution to be represented as Nook. E. Thompson.
And the defense, represented by Eric Bertzlaff, is Jarvis Landry, the most hated and loved person on the Twitter sphere, a 2017 first and second, and a 2018 first. Russell, state your case for the prosecution.
Well, I think when we look at Jarvis Landry here, he is a fine gentleman in his own right. And while I am not happy with him right now, you have to question that yards per reception. I mean, look at it. It's pathetic. He should be embarrassed of himself. The 2017 and 2018 firsts are not going to be helping you within the first 2 years of your dynasty helpings and servants, unlike that barbecue in the room after the case is over. I'll tell you what.
All right.
But what I'm saying is, when you get to the end of it and you just look at what Nuke did in 2015 there, I don't think any of those picks or Landry will come close to that in a head-to-head fashion at any point. So I think you just take the stud.
Well, I mean, I think that that's an easy argument to make, and I think it's one that's easy right now, especially with not getting such a large target share. But there were two wide receivers brought in to the Texans squad, and they have a questionable quarterback for at least the foreseeable future. So to me, Nuke's a sell. So this is the kind of package that shooting for makes a lot of sense, where Landry, who's kind of hit or miss as far as the owner thinking he's amazing or not, if you've played a season with Landry on your team, you think he's pretty good because he's the pinnacle of consistency. Or if you play DFS, he's a cheap option to fit in your lineup every week. 2017 firsts are gold. Seconds are probably going to be good. And then I promise there's going to be a 2018 gold rush as well, and so that first is going to be worth as well. So to me, this looks like 3 firsts and 2 seconds for Nuke. That's the kind of price that I would be more than happy to hand him off for, unless my team needed him to win a championship.
Any rebuttal from Mr. Hopkins?
Well, I'd say he makes some pretty good points, but I am worried about Landry's role with Leonte Carew coming in 2016. I think that might chip into some of his targets and increase and make them decrease as we go along in his career.
That's.
Do you have another point?
No, I don't. Please go ahead and rule, Judge. I'm definitely winning, so I love it. Thank you. Your Honor, Your Honor.
When I am dealing a stud like Hopkins, I want to get a package that is worth between 3 and 4 firsts, and this is a package that is worth between 3 and 4 firsts. So I will rule in favor of Jarvis Landry in the picks.
Wow. If the glove does not fit, you must acquit. I am the Johnny Cochran in this courtroom, baby. Yeah. Let's go eat some barbecue. All right. Well, that was some nonsense in the Dynasty courtroom, as it always is. Apparently, I can't do a smoker's voice. I don't know what to do. Like creepy old guy, like giving you like a cursed coin at like the boardwalk or something. But yeah, so that was fun, and I think while having fun, made some very good points about these particular trades and these particular assets. And just for those of you listening, the prosecution side of each one of those deals actually won on Twitter. So that was kind of the argument, and I noticed that at least two of the deals that were on the defense ended up winning, and both of them defended by me insanely well, if I don't say so myself. So also, I'd like to thank Russ. Russ, thanks so much for joining us on the pod, man. It was a ton of fun, and we'll definitely have you back at some point. I know you and Nathan share a heavy dudes with a Z bond that you can't break. So I have no doubt that you'll be back on the pod, and you're obviously more than welcome. So I appreciate you coming on, man.
Absolutely, it was so much fun. Everything I imagined, and I'm glad Nathan could tune in from time to time.
Yeah, no, Nathan's internet connection is not really that acceptable, but he had to do it. He had to come in, use that Hilton Wi-Fi to make it happen. So we appreciate you getting on your phone, Nathan, and making that happen. So apologies if the quality wasn't the best, but hopefully you were able to pick everything apart. I know I could on my end, so hopefully it wasn't too bad. So for that being said, Nathan, do you have any takes that you want to give other than somebody liking your untapped selection for today?
Okay, so Russell, you said you had a Dan story. Dan's not here, so you have to tell it.
Okay. So it's about the Scott Fish Bowl last year. I was chugging along with my team, middle of the season, and you know how like by week 5 or 6, like teams start to drop off and like they get either replaced or, and Scott does a good job with that, but sometimes, people fail him. Well, he subbed in Mr. Dan, and I was cruising along, and all of a sudden this Dan guy comes out of nowhere, and I didn't know who he was at the time. And he beat me.
Most people didn't. He doesn't have that many followers, so.
And he beat me, and he was starting to score like the most points in our division every week, and I was like, I hated him. I was like mad at him.
But how much there's not that much maneuvering in that league. What is going on in the background here, guys? Is there a dog rummaging through trash?
No, it's someone in the conference room.
Of the Hilton.
that was one of my voices rummaging through the trash.
Yeah, Nathan's actually in the lobby of the Hilton for some reason, and he's like, all right. So Nathan beat you, or I'm sorry, Dan beat you, but you can't really do that much maneuvering in the Scott Fish Bowl. I was in it last year, and my team sucked, and I couldn't make anything happen.
I don't know how it happened, but yeah, he ended up turning it around and like making the playoffs and everything, and I really was angry with him. So.
All right, well, let's not give any credit to Dan and just give credit to the guy who actually drafted the team. And
I can go look at
yeah, whoever did that.
Yeah.
He's a bum for not managing the team, but he's obviously better at Dan than drafting. So
yeah,
there you go. So if you draft for Dan, he could win your league. That's, I guess. All right, guys. Well, Dynasty Tradecast, I'm Eric Bertzloff at Dynasty Trades. He's Nathan Powell at NPowellFF. And he's Russell Clay at Russell J. Clay on Twitter. We'll catch up with you guys next time. Cheers.